This is Focus with Jack Cottle.
Good evening, I'm Jack Cottle. Welcome to this month's edition of Focus. This month we're talking about the South Dakota Hall of Fame, and the hall was established back in 1974. Another group of inductees going in this Friday and Saturday. Now 10 people going in this year. That list includes Richard Adey of Bruce, Dr. Milton Mutch of Sioux Falls, Dick Muth of Mitchell, and Terry Wooster of Pierre. Also 6 people from this area going into the Hall of Fame this year. That list includes Fred Kozad of Martin, Judy Olson Duhamel of Rapid City, James Emery, the late James Emery of Pine Ridge, Kate Jorgensen of Spearfish, Don Monolo of Rapid City, and Dick Termes of Spearfish. The motto of the Hall: champion a culture of excellence here in South Dakota. 2 of those. We're going to talk to 5 of those 6 right here today. First of all, Fred Kozad of Martin, a lawyer, 65 years as an attorney, 62 years as a veteran service officer, 50 years as city attorney, 18 years on the Board of Charities and Corrections, 6 years on the Board of Regents, a very busy life to this point. What does this mean to you, being inducted into the South Dakota Hall of Fame?
Well, of course, I'm very humble. You know, I think of the Hall of Fame, people like Joe Foss, Senator McGovern, and here I am, a little town lawyer down to Martin, and all of a sudden I get to be in that same list. So I'm very proud and very humble.
Now, you talk about yourself as an attorney from the little town of Martin. Yeah. You grew up in Bennett County, went to law school, came back to that area. Why? You had a lot of opportunities, I'm sure. Why come back home? You
know, I knew the people there, and I was sure they would forgive my antics when I was growing up, you know, like we all did. And it worked out well, you know. We've had a great life in Martin. Martin's a good town, easy to get acquainted there, easy to get involved in things. Over time I was a veteran of World War II and got involved in the Legion, and we were active in the church, and it was a good place to raise our daughter, and we had a good life in Martin.
Now, you talk about some of those famous names in South Dakota, like Joe Foss. Yeah. Is it hard for you to think of yourself in that group with people like Joe Foss?
Why, sure.
All right. Kay Jorgensen is Spearfish and is a public service and volunteer, graduated from Black Hills State, started in Pierre as a page, 12 years in the South Dakota House, has traveled throughout the U.S., has said visited 45 state capitals by the time you were 20 years old. Very impressive statistic. What's that mean to you now that you are a South Dakota Hall of Famer?
The words hardly come, but I think when you just step back from the surprise and the how can I possibly be listed among those that are there previous to all of us, you have to say, well, our lives provide us opportunity to be role models. Apparently someone thinks that that role model was worthy of the time and effort, and it's overwhelming to be a part of that group. The 3 people who went in cahoots, I tell them, to give me the nomination, really had to talk a little bit about it, and finally just went ahead with the nomination with my knowledge, but not much help from me. And you know, I'm so grateful to them, Jack. I can hardly believe it. It's been an amazing summer. I've been going back through things. It's almost like reliving a life of saying, well, you know, I'd forgotten about that. Or, gosh, I wonder what's happened to that person. That's really what all of this is about, are the people who help enrich our lives. And we get to party with the best of them and celebrate the fact that South Dakota has provided us such a rich life.
Now, you were nominated as a public service person, also a volunteer. What is it about public service work that kind of drew you in over the years?
When we were growing up in Whitten, our dad, I have 2 brothers, and our dad wanted us to have a really great education, and he wanted us to be able to walk among people anywhere. So he didn't want us to be impressed overly by Pierre or New York City or Washington, D.C., so he made a huge effort to get us to all those places, all the while saying, there's no country like this, and you have an absolute obligation to participate and give back. So I think I was the 3rd child and the one kind of chosen to be directed that way, and it happened to suit my personality. It's a really great, it's a great opportunity. Public servants, let's pick the legislature, for example. That was an early part of my life. You get all the benefit. Hopefully, you do some things that help other people, open doors, make their lives a little easier, answer questions that seem to be a great puzzle. But the sheer joy and the huge benefit all accrues to the person who gets to wear that title or serve in those halls.
Now, you did a lot of public service over the years, Fred. What kind of difference can a small town attorney make? What kind of real difference can you make in the community in that position?
Well, see, you've got opportunity in a little town that you don't have in a big town. For instance, if I lived in Rapid City, I'd never wind up being the city attorney. If I lived in Rapid City, I'd never wind up being state's attorney. If I wouldn't have been county judge, wouldn't have been veteran service officer. These were opportunities that came to me through the mere fact that the numbers were few. So, you know, I'm a great advocate of little town law practice.
Were you ever tempted to go to the bigger city?
I've had some opportunities, but not tempted, you know. I knew where I belonged, and fortunately I had sense enough to stay there.
Now, you were also big on public broadcasting. Why?
Well, because we enjoy it, you know. We listen to public radio, and, you know, that's a part of our life. So we were happy to support it.
Now, he's talking about being in the small town of Martin. You're up there in Spearfish. What are the kind of things, what difference can you make in a smaller community? Certainly not as small as Martin, but not a big city as well. What kind of difference can you make in a place like Spearfish?
You know, I think one of the things that Fred would have made it anywhere doing any of those things, I'm pretty sure. I think we all try to break our communities down into sizes where we deal comfortably, whether it's a group of friends or colleagues. So in Spearfish, when you'd see a need, you could just step up and make a difference. You know, you could dig the ditch or build the building or encourage people to make a contribution. Black Hills State, for example, which made all the difference in the world in my life, was a really small school at the time, but it terrified me because there were 1,000 kids there, and I came from a class of 9. I had to find ways to work in a real small arena so that my comfort level was maximized. And it's just easier. It's just easier to call the mayor. You know everybody. You know, they know you. They may know the negatives, but they also know the positives and the legitimacy of an idea or an effort or a family. I just think, you know, smaller numbers always make it a little easier. Let me tell a story along that line. I was in Vermilion, actually, at a Regents meeting, and Tom Brokaw was there. We had an executive session. We were hoping that reporting to Tom Brokaw meant that we had met the public meeting laws. I don't think it did, actually. His comment was, I'd forgotten how easy it is to get things done in South Dakota. You know, it just simply, physically doesn't take as much time. You get through immediately to the person that you need to ask the question. I think that's the difference.
All right. Kay Jorgensen, Fred Kozak, congratulations on your induction. Enjoy the ceremonies this Friday and Saturday. And we will continue with our look at the South Dakota Hall of Fame with the artistic side of the Black Hills nominees when we come back with this month's edition of Focus. I'm Jack Cottle. Welcome back to this month's edition of Focus, talking about the upcoming inductions into the South Dakota Hall of Fame coming up this Friday and Saturday in Chamberlain. We have two of the artists who are being inducted from this area. We're going to start with Dick Termes of Spearfish, a third-generation South Dakotan, spent much of his art career here in the Black Hills. Known for his unique Termes spheres, he's painted over 500 of those over the years. He's led workshops connecting art, math, and science. Dick, what does this mean to you that you are now a South Dakota Hall of Famer?
I've made it. No, no, it's a great honor, you know, to be connected in with, I mean, like the McGoverns and the Joe Fosses, like they've said, to be connected with that kind of level of people is pretty amazing. And I don't know if I deserve it, but it's nice nice that they think I do. So, no, it's a wonderful thing.
Now, you're one of those artists that you can look at your work and most people can be, that's Dick Termes' stuff. Mm-hmm. How did you evolve into the style of work that you do today?
Well, I think if you always paint on a ball, it kind of helps, you know. Then they go, oh, a sphere, so it must be a Termes sphere. No, and because I really do have lots of styles, so I don't exactly know that there's really anything beyond that I'm painting on the sphere. But I would rather they would think about it as being an inside-out worlds, you know, that I'm painting. Well, I got tired of not being able to capture a bigger scene, so I evolved to the sphere because it allows me to capture complete worlds, up, down, and all around worlds. So, you know, I guess that's that. You know, somebody could be painting on a sphere, and it certainly could easily be not mine. But people just don't seem to be doing that.
All right. Don Manolo of Rapid City. Don was born on the Pine Ridge Reservation, raised there and in Rapid City. He attended the Institute of American Indian Art in New Mexico, also Black Hills State. Taught art on a traveling art van for a while. Worked at the Civic Center for 22 years before moving into art full-time. Still gives workshops and teaches. Don, a Hall of Famer. What does that mean to you?
Oh, that means it's amazing. I mean, this is probably the one honor that I never, ever dreamed of. And last year, they nominated me, and I didn't have a clue that I was going to ever get to be the Hall of Fame. But I did want it. I really wanted this one, probably the worst of all, because of all the honors that I've gotten. This is the one that's going to immortalize me. It's going to make my granddaughters specifically, you know, when they go across Chamberlain, they can always point down and say, hey, Papa's in the Hall of Fame, you know. So their families are going to continue to be recognizable of who I am and what I accomplished.
How did you get involved in the arts? Was it something as a kid that you just were kind of got immersed in, or how did that happen?
You know, I always give credit to my father because he was the one that sat down with me after supper was over, and we would always draw. And Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, you know, they were my models from comic books. And my mom, I'm the only child. So my mother, I always won, you know, so I always got to be number one. And I've always tried to achieve through my lifetime to be number one. So it's been with me since I've been 5 years old. I've always wanted to be an artist, and it's always been my goal set. And it's always been, in my own mind, I've never wanted to say I'm an artist. I've wanted other people to say that I'm an artist. And today, other people do say that I'm an artist.
Yeah, you certainly have transformed from the Mickey Mouse days, and now you're doing a lot of traditional Lakota art. Why is that important to you, to work in that area?
Well, because it's an educational tool. And it's something that you can go into classrooms on the reservations, and you can show those children that you know, traditionally we preserved our culture through drawings. And we first started off with buffalo hides, but when buffalo were eliminated from the plains, we turned to ledger drawings and accounting books, and we traded and bartered for those. And those same images that we had on buffalo hides, we put on ledgers. And in essence, we contained our culture and our history through those drawings. And today, we can draw and we can still tell stories and everything else. So it's education is an easy way to explain my art.
Now, Dick, Don, talking about teaching, you give workshops kind of explaining the combination between art and math and science. Why is that important to you to try to pass some of that along?
Well, it seems to be an area that not many people play in. It's the idea of finding your ideas in mathematical concepts and geometry. Mainly, I'd play with geometry, but the spherical geometry is where I get to play. And if you just think about if ideas come out of just geometry, and you think of Euclidean geometry, which is all flat, and then you get into spherical geometries, which is all a totally different type of geometry, it like opens the door to a whole lot of new ideas. So that's what excites me, is that if you can start with a spherical idea, you're going to find things that have never been talked about before, and that's pretty exciting to me.
What does it say about art in South Dakota? We have two artists going in. You guys could not be more different with the work that you do. But what's it say about art? That's what's going in this year.
Well, they finally found us.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We've been here.
No, the artists have a real big advantage, I think, because our stuff is out there all the time. I mean, we hang it on your walls, we put it in your galleries, we put it in the hotels. So our expressions as visual people, like we two are, you know, our stuff is out there all the time. So your name gets out there all the time. So I think that it's a natural thing that when they bring our names up, they know who we are, you know, and that's helpful when you get these types of awards, I think.
Nadon, you said you've always had that love of art. What's that mean to you now that you've been able to figure out a way to not only keep doing that, but make a living at it?
Oh, I love it. I mean, every day I wake up and I don't have to punch a clock. I don't have to get up at 6 o'clock. If I feel like sleeping late, I can sleep late. But basically, I think art, you know, all your good ideas come in the morning, and you visualize those, and if you can walk directly from your bed to the studio, that art becomes clarity. It becomes clear. And that's what Dick and I have over a lot of artists, because, I mean, we have our own studios within our homes, and we don't have to lose that focus. We continue that focus all day long. And me, I can go into my studio, and pretty soon Paulette's hollering at me and saying, hey, lunch is ready. And you're going, wow, what happened to 4 hours?
Yeah.
You know, so it's beautiful. It's a great place to be.
You have that same feeling?
Oh my, yes. My studio, I've been in it for many, many years, so every little idea I've had is hanging, and everything I do hangs, you know. So I have all these pictures and all of these spheres little ideas that I've had that didn't quite gel, and later you come back to them and you look at them and all of a sudden they make sense to you. But just to have a place where it's your own private idea world, you know, and from like 30 years of ideas are hanging around you as you try and come up with a new direction to go. And it really is, it's almost embarrassing to get to live that kind of lifestyle. But I love it.
Why not?
So does he.
Absolutely.
love it.
Dick Termes, Don Monlow, congratulations on your induction into the Hall of Fame. Enjoy that coming up this weekend. We will continue our look at the South Dakota Hall of Fame when we come back with this month's edition of Focus. I'm Jack Cottle. Welcome back to this month's edition of Focus, talking about the South Dakota Hall of Fame inductions coming up this Friday and Saturday in Chamberlain. Our last one we're going to talk to of our inductees, Judy Olson Duhamel. She was on the South Dakota Board of Education from 1972 to 1983. Also was director of the South Dakota Education Policy Seminar. Worked as supervisor of community education and public information for the Rapid City Schools. Named Adult Educator of the Year by the Missouri Valley Education Association. Now you can also add Hall of Fame to that list. What does that mean to you?
You know, truly, it means a commitment. Very honestly, it means a commitment, because the mission of excellence relates to, I think, my childhood, my life. It also means I'm so humble. There's so many other people who generally, you know, should be in the same shoes that I'm wearing. And so it's an honor that some friends of mine decided I was worthy of this honor, and they made it happen. I was very surprised.
Lots of years of experience in all different areas of education. Yeah. What is it about education that became a passion for you over the years?
I think I figured out when I was really young because I loved children and babysitting and all those kinds of things. I think I figured out that education was the answer to so many things. Good jobs, eradicating hunger, homelessness, on, and that a good educated family, or a family who had the privileges of being educated, was a solid family who could enjoy life and had well-being and could function and could support in a community. So just that simple little piece of education applying to all people, I think, makes such a difference in a lifestyle and a community. So the culture of excellence, the Hall of Fame's mission, is applicable to the culture of education and communities of learning. I just think that's, I grew up with it.
Do you feel like you were able to make a difference, kind of handing that off to some of the kids and some of the adults that you dealt with here over the years?
I do. I probably would say with, again, a little humility, that every one of my 6 kids is a person who gives and does. And that's a gift to the community, and I think to, you know, any human being who's willing to serve. One good friend of mine said once, if you're not in public life as the legislature, or you're not there for the reason to serve, you don't belong. And that's how I felt about politics. And you know, the only reason I really entered that arena was because of education. I was driven to hope to make a difference in education, and I hope I have. We've done some things with the homeless. I mean, and right now the early childhood program, starting strong in Rapid City, is amazing. I used to say, I hope I live long enough where people understand the value of early education. I think I have maybe lived long enough, and I think it's going to get better and better. So that's been a challenge, because our population doesn't necessarily accept that early childhood education is very important. We're more kind of tuned to a K-12 or collegiate level of education.
Were there educators who inspired you over the years to
yes.
move forward and come up with new ideas and do new things?
Yes, many educators. I had a wonderful friend, Irma Becker, who was a counselor at West Middle School, and I worked with her when my kids were there, and she inspired me to get a master's degree and do these kinds of things, and said, we need women in administration, and we need women, you know, in the education field who are not afraid to carry the banner and speak out, and I'm really not afraid.
I've noticed that over the years. Are they making progress in getting more women involved, to get more women have that voice
yes.
out there in front?
We are. I loved times when I worked with Native American women, and I wanted to always empower them that they could do and they could be, you know, but education was a key component, and that's requires some work, but it's worth it, you know. And so I hope I've influenced people to make a difference in their lives. I hope I've been able to challenge and been able to convince them that it's worth it to strive, to do better, and to give back.
Ever any regrets about going into education?
Oh, no, never, never. I've loved it. I can't imagine that, you know, because it's related to me to everything else. It's related to quality of life. It's related to how a community survives. I mean, I said at one time, and I believe this, lifelong learning is what communities are about. At any one time, you could be my teacher and I could be your student, and we could reverse those roles and things. And that's healthy, and that's progressive, and it really makes for good communities, and that's what we're all about. South Dakota is a wonderful place.
All right, sounds great. Judy, thank you very much. Congratulations, and enjoy the ceremonies in Pierre coming up. Again, we want to congratulate all of our local inductees into the South Dakota Hall of Fame: Fred Cozad, Martin, Judy Olson Duhamel of Rapid City, the late James Emery of Pine Ridge, Kay Jorgensen of Spearfish, Don Monolo of Rapid City, and Dick Termes of Spearfish. Again, those ceremonies coming up this Friday and Saturday in Pierre. Again, the motto: championing a culture of excellence in South Dakota. And that'll do it for this month's edition of Focus. Hope to see you again right here the first Sunday night of next month. Good night.